everyone. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today we have here Patrick Ryan from the PRyanCollection on Instagram, one of the best IG channels in my opinion. There it is, showing off his mug. And one of the best collections out there in my opinion on Instagram. P. Ryan, how's it going? Thanks for coming on.
Good. Well, thanks for having me. Been a fan since I found you a couple months ago. Appreciate the straight talk and looking forward to doing some more straight talking.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, just so I understand, is this live on YouTube as we're doing this, or does it get like rebroadcast there?
No, this is live streamed.
Okay. So it's not on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube right now. Yeah.
Okay. So like, are there comments? Are there people in there?
Yeah. There's comments right now.
Okay. So I can't see anything.
Oh, okay.
I can see you and I can see me, but I can't see.
Oh, yeah. You have to go to YouTube, and what you have to do, and
whatever.
then you have to see the comments that way.
I'll put you in charge of that then.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Let's read Steve Splenda, who I've gotten on before. He says, "How many hanky pankies does it take to trigger a card influencer?" All right.
Wow. Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, it's all hanky panky. It's the movie, the Wolf of Wall Street. It's a floozy. It's a flozzy. It's a wugazi. It's a fugazi. It's a whatever. It's all bullshit. I mean, the whole thing's been bullshit. It's been bullshit since I got big on IG about 2 years ago. It's been bullshit for longer than that. But yeah, now we're just seeing how big the house of cards really is. We're seeing it now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Before we get into the hanky panky talk, maybe for some people that haven't heard of you, maybe explain how you got into collecting, and maybe you could go from there.
Sure. So I started collecting, grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, moved to Houston, Dallas, Houston, went to college in Austin. But when I was in Connecticut, became obsessed with baseball, not far from New York, 86 Mets, 88 Mets, the 1988 Mets are my team. And became obsessed with Darryl Strawberry. And then my grandmother one day was like, well, he has these baseball cards. And so we went to a baseball card store, and it just resonated with me. Like these pictures of these players and their stats on the back. So that was 1987, 1988. And I remember I sold baseball cards on the side of the road as a 7-year-old kid. And so the collectability plus the financial aspect of it was always intriguing to me. Got into autograph chasing. So that's kind of where like so like 1995 to 2000, I was chasing autographs. Met my current business partner in my ticketing company through chasing autographs, which was just a lot of fun. Getting players to sign 8x10s, sell some of them on eBay. That whole aspect of how to market things on eBay as a teenager was fascinating to me. Went to college, and like a lot of people, kind of the hobby took a back seat. I kind of kept an eye on cards tangentially for a number of years, but 2013, I went to Lollapalooza with my then girlfriend, and the National was in town. And so I went and was doing my mornings at the National with my buddy Sam, and then I was going to Lollapalooza in the evening. And I mean, the hobby just sung to me. It just spoke to me. And the thing that I liked the most back then was, as kids, you would never get rookie cards signed, okay? Because it would damage the card. Like putting a signature on a rookie card was absolute no-no. But then when grading became a big thing, people were like, well, look, if the card's not going to grade out well, you might as well get it signed. So in 2013, I bought a 1986 Jordan sticker signed by Jordan for about $2,000. Today it's probably worth $20,000. But I started getting focused on the concept of getting signed rookie cards. 85 Topps McGuire, 86 Donruss Canseco, and kind of building my collection around the concept of these players are holding their most iconic card and they're signing it. So that was sort of my central refocus upon getting back into the hobby. I was picking up some random cards here and there. I was breaking wax here and there. My company had done a ticketing deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. And so I was following Giannis. And so I started buying Giannis cards. And I did sensationally well. I'm talking cards that I bought for 25, I sold for $250. Well, the issue was that those $250 cards became worth $5,000. You know, like I'd bought his red, white, and blue prism for $15, sold it for $150. I think as a PSA 10, that's easily a $5,000 to $10,000 card today. So learning that lesson was, I was like, well, I had the right strategy, but I just didn't do enough volume. And so I said, the next time I have a hunch, I'm going to go way bigger. And that was with Luka. So in 2018, Luka Prism came out, and his raw Prism was selling for $5. Trey Young's was selling for $1. So I was buying up tons of Lukas. At one point, I had over 30 PSA 10 silvers of the Luka. I had the blues, the reds. I remember I've got in my eBay folder, like I missed out on golds at $6,000. I just didn't bid enough. And so what happened was, going into the pandemic, I had about probably $20,000 invested in Luka that became worth like $300,000 in the matter of months. And so what I did with that is then I started diversifying, and I started buying iconic cards like a 52 Topps Mantle PSA 2, Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson. And so I started building out this concept of a 100 PC card case. So Luka financed my ability to buy, for me, what I determined the 100 most iconic cards of all time. And then coincidentally, PWCC, I think, quite frankly, they ripped off my idea to do their list. But like, so I have like this set in stone, like 100 cards. Anything else outside those cards is tradable or available if I need money. But like, that's sort of the cornerstone. Well, the other thing that I'd always been attracted to is game used. So I sort of became a well-known collector sort of by accident. So the 2019 National, it was in Chicago. I think it was 18, it was 19. And everyone's like, you know, the Jordan PSA 10 rookie, it's been hovering at $30,000. It's going to go nuts. There's all this Jordan game use stuff in one of the big golden auctions. And there was a playoff jersey, second round jersey from the Last Dance season, the 1998 season. And it went into extended bidding. And I got an email from Frank Denote at Golden. He goes, hey, look, you're one of the high bidders. Do you want to come to the live auction? And I go, well, sure. Why not? You know? And I'm at this table, and there's some big heavy hitters at this table, like Darren Prince, for example, massive collector. And what I learned real quickly was that a lot of the people that were interested in that Jordan jersey, they bowed out because they were like, it got so expensive so quickly that they're like, it's going to go nuts in extended bidding. Well, by dumb luck, I won that Jordan jersey for $137,000. I've been offered $2 million for it, and I've turned it down. So, like, I inadvertently got the game used kind of bargain of the decade just by being there. And so when people ask about my loyalty to Ken Golden and his organization, it was because, like, A, they gave me credit because it took me a couple months to pay it off selling other shit through them. But like, that's a centerpiece of my collection. I've added some game use stuff since then, but like, that was sort of like my first big splash as a big time buyer. And then during the pandemic, my page here, my PRyanCollection page, grew from like 1,000 followers to 10,000 followers because I went on this tirade after I successfully flipped. I bought 2 Jordan 86 PSA 10s. I had about $120,000 in them, and I flipped them for $250,000 in the matter of like 2 months. And I went on this tirade because you had all these like guys like Jeff Wilson, and I've got a good relationship with Jeff today. But back then, I was like, this guy is like putting out all this horrific advice, and meanwhile, I'm doing this part time. And I just made $100,000 flipping Jordan rookies. Like, where is he? If he's the sports card investor, why is this play available for someone like me? And that's when my page just blew up. So the hobby was sort of simmering, like not really comfortable with a lot of this investment talk that Jeff and others were sort of bringing. And then when I came out and just lambasted it, my page kind of took off. And you know, we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. That's who I am in the hobby. So longtime collector, came back in, made a big splash with a very lucky game use purchase. And then I made headlines flipping some Jordans at record prices. for them. Those were record prices then.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's look at some comments here. Dan says, I love when P. Ryan pushes against the cards are like stocks narrative, even offering to short cards. Also, his insight into the market was fascinating. Yeah, I see this a lot. I used to actually say that, hey, you could compare to the stock market, but then I learned, I think I lost you there. Okay, there you go. So yeah, I was comparing this to stocks in the beginning, but then I learned after doing more research of older articles, you can't do this because stocks are way more liquid than these collectibles. And in addition, when I see people talking about market cap, you just can't do that because there's not that much sales of these. So
right. So one of the times I got mad at Jeff Wilson was there were people in my DMs who had lost a lot of money. And so one of the things they lost money on was he was talking about the 1990 score supplemental Emmett Smith going up a ton. And he goes, oh, I think the Fleer update Emmett could go up a ton. Okay. So the Fleer update PSA 10 Emmett jumps from like 150 to like $900 in like 24 hours. Okay. And I'm like, people, it's a pop like 700 card, which is still a low pop, but like there are only 7 of them available at realistic prices. So the issue is that like people will post cards at not market clearing prices. Unlike stocks, you can't, like, you can sort of short and go long on stocks, but the point was like there were like 3 Fleer updates priced properly. People watched Jeff's video, they bought those 3, and then they kept buying at 300, 350, and then just idiots who just randomly had them posted for $600, $700 started buying them. And like a stock doesn't go from 150 to like 750 in the matter of like 3 hours with 3 shares. That was really the issue. It's like, it's 3 fucking cards. It's not a data trend. We're dealing with data points. That was the argument I was always making, was that we're never really dealing with data trends in cards. We're dealing with data points. And people who don't have $600 to lose, we're making decisions off of data points, not data trends. And that made me so irate. And that's why I'm still mad at these idiots who compare the card market to the stock market.
Yeah, you just can't do it. But you have to realize that some people's business models is based on that. I believe Card Ladder always uses the market capitalization, compares it a lot. I don't think they compare to stocks. I think they're more.
But to your point, using a term like market cap, you're using stock terms. Okay, let me tell you something. When they say the market cap of a card is $3.5 million, let me tell you something. There is no way that all those cards could sell tomorrow for $3.5 million. Whereas in the stock market, if there's a market cap, there likely are buy orders or private sellers or buyers who could actually make that transaction happen. Okay? If you tried to sell every Kobe Bryant 1996 Topps Chrome PSA 10 at the current valuation, you couldn't get it. You couldn't get it. But whereas with like a publicly traded company, you would get that number. That's what people take for granted, is that because like with the stock market, you're dealing with businesses that create revenue, which create dividends, which makes money. The cards don't produce anything. They're just little pictures of men. So to say things like market cap is entirely misleading.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The only thing that I look at in terms of markets is, hey, look, if the Federal Reserve, the government's pouring in excess liquidity into the system, card prices are going to go up. And then if they raise interest rates like they have, card prices are going to tank. That's how I look at it. You may not agree with me on that statement.
My issue is like, it's almost like you're making it too sophisticated. And now look, the data might show that that's true. I just feel like people are looking for a gamble. Like, so I don't look at it as like free cash flow. I look at it as like, what's a good gamble for them? And like, people are seeing cards as not being a good gamble for them today. That you know, like you saying that like what the government does impacts cards is actually like a compliment to card collectors.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
It could be people could, you know, I was always like, are people really taking their stimulus checks and like directly buying cards? And it kind of seemed that way, but I felt it was more like an emotional, like how they feel about betting on things.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, I mean, a lot of people were locked in at home, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't go to games. So what do? And you get stimulus checks, and if you have money on the side, you're just blowing on cards. That's what I did with my stimulus check. I bought like what is it called? The boxer Mayweather. I bought one of his rookie cards. What,
The Brown, the
$1,000?
1998 Brown boxing.
Yeah, as a BGS 9.5, and then at one point the PSA 10 went from $2,000 to about $36,000 at its peak. And I think one of the big companies, fractionals, must have bought it at $36,000.
Well, and the other thing too is that like in the stock market, we might have hedge funds and private equity companies that evaluate kind of putting groups together to buy companies, but they don't behave the way these fractionals behave. These fractionals were buying purely off of speculation. I mean, it was wild. Like, whereas like if a if a private equity group is going to take a company private, the amount of research and like data they have versus like what these fractionals were doing, it's amateur hour. And like that was another thing that just completely pissed me off when you saw. And I like alt, and quite frankly, I like a lot of the companies in the space, but like, you know, and I like the guys that rally, but when they're boosting and like just giving bullshit valuations because there's no underlying economics. There's no underlying economics to these fucking things. Like, that's the biggest issue. So like, they're just like willy-nilly. Well, some asshole paid $10,000 10 months ago, so now it must be worth $25,000. What economics? Is it laying more eggs? Is it producing more oil? Is it servicing more customers? Fucking no, it's not. That's the issue with what the fractionals were doing. So like they get all butthurt and get in my DMs when I'm like, there's no data. There's no data. Even if you say that there's comps, a comp is not data. A comp is just some number that you're pulling out of thin air, hoping to justify your bullshit thesis to stuff down some other valuation. It's horseshit. So anyway, so then you have the fractionals just shitting up and ruining everything and driving up prices that never made sense. Because again, we're not buying land. We're not buying apartment buildings. We're not buying oil rigs. We're buying little pictures of men that do not produce anything. They're not income producing entities.
Indeed. I mean, this reminds me of the purchase. I think Sasha T bought a Pokemon card for about $500,000 or whatever. And then I think Card Kahuna was saying that, hey, yeah, this thing's going to double or something like someone was saying like that. Yeah, it was just wild. And
like, look, we're seeing the parallels with crypto. Like, why? Just because there's some other asshole who has the capacity to buy that? Like, that's why it's going to double? Like, come on. Like, fundamentals. And so, like, for me, now things are worse than I was ever hoping. I wanted a correction. I wanted a serious correction because I wanted to really see, because I do think the pandemic brought in some people who had a real passion for it, like the designs, the history, the players. Okay. So if we can cut out and like let all the dead leaves just go away, we could be left with a really happy and thriving hobby. Unfortunately, things I think got a little too trimmed. And I think that things have gotten a little too severe. And so we're having a hard time figuring out the way I always value a card is, imagine buying something that you can't sell. Okay. Maybe your descendants can sell it, but you can't. You're basically being buried with that card. Everything. Now we're at a point where some things are back to a value where I'm buying stuff and I'm like, yeah, that thing for, $25,000, I'm fine. Like, I don't care. Like, that's such a good deal to me. But there's still some stuff that's wildly inflated, like all the National Treasures fake patch cards.
Yes. Speaking of some of these high-end cards that you're mentioning, you did a good Instagram live stream about PWCC and some of these whales out there. And you said that, hey, this is like Michael Lewis, Big Short, and how this is just, the high end just crumbling down and we're going to see more. Could you elaborate more that missed that live stream?
So basically, that some people are wealthy enough in the hobby to prop up the thesis around high-end cards. And I can't disclose what I know, but most people would be disgusted if they knew what happened with the Luca Logo Man at PWCC. So if you looked at this most recent PWCC auction was staggering on multiple levels, okay? Because you clearly had this one guy, Nick Fiorello, who emerged from the swamps of Florida, okay? We're not talking blue blood, Wharton, Carlisle, PE money. We're talking an insurance broker who got successful selling car washes. Kudos to him. I've got nothing against him, but he clearly plowed like $15 million into this market over like a 18-month period. And what it looked to have happened was he brought on some partners and they stored everything in the PWCC vault. When you store something in the vault, whether it's for sale or not, they give you credit. It looks like they went on another spending spree based on the cards and the value and the value that PWCC had assigned to them. And I think PWCC said, hey, guys, you're over leveraged. Okay. Due to the market correction, we've lent you, you've got $5 million worth of cards that you bought. We valued them at 10 million. We lent you 5. They're now worth 5. Okay. So we now own the cards. Okay. You gave them to us at a $10 million valuation. We then lent you 5. They're now worth 5. So there are cards. So we're going to sell them. That's what I'm thinking happened. And maybe it wasn't him, and maybe it was a handful of other people. The point was that PWCC flooded the market in an unprecedented fashion with a number of 1-of-1s and 1-of-10s that we like. Usually, like, the decorum in the hobby is like, hey, like, let's trickle this shit out. Who knows what kind of debt PWCC has on their books? They built the vault, right? What did that cost them to build? $8 million? Do you know how much money $8 million is if you're taking a 20% VIG? How many cards you have to sell to pay the note on an $8 million vault? Whatever the hell it was, right? So PWCC is getting pressure from their borrowers. So they're putting pressure on their lenders. And they're like, yeah, we're selling these cards. Like, unless you want to wire us the money, we're selling the cards. Okay. Well, then all of a sudden, there's this huge scare signal of like, yeah, some of these pretty big, bullish, and very talkative collectors are now selling. That's not good. That doesn't make me feel good in my stomach. But guess what? It doesn't take that much money or that many people to prop up those values. So I think that, like, the Luca and a bunch of the one-on-one Mahomes, if the public knew who won those cards, they would be like, yeah, this is a disaster. This is an unmitigated disaster.
All I could say is, based on what you're saying, is I've seen Sotheby. Someone sent me an article about the owner of Sotheby, and I think it was the owner that bid up some of the prices, and he actually owned the art auction. I'm not saying that happened with PWCC, but
well, that's the issue. And whether it was Brent and Betsy or whatever, a lot of these marketplaces, they've created wealth in their ownership group. And, like, guess what? If you've been telling people, hey, you know what? You should be buying Logo Men. Hey, you should be buying these National Treasures to bid up. You're giving people this confidence. And then all of a sudden, this auction happens and you're like, oh, shit. Like, guess what you're going to do? If you've got the cash, right? What are you going to do? Do you want to look like how many angry texts do whether it be eBay cards or whether it be Heritage or Golden or REA or whomever it is, All those people, I've got all their phone numbers. If someone had prompted me, thankfully they know I'm not an asshole and they know I'm not an idiot, and I'm not going to buy a Zion Williamson National Treasures of '99 for $250,000. They know not to come at me with that. But imagine if I did, and I'm seeing the Luka logo man dying on a vine at $1.7 million. I'm texting all of them and I'm saying, what did you get me into? What did you get me into? And I think that's what happened in this PWCC auction, is that it wouldn't shock me if people from Golden, if people from Heritage, if people from REA, it wouldn't shock me who, let's put it this way. I don't think a single real collector ended up with any of those significant cards. Period.
Yeah, that's my hunch as well. And you made some interesting points on your last live stream that it seemed that the other auction houses, big ones, I didn't see Golden selling these type of cards. It was only PWCC. And I'm thinking long term. I don't know the financial status of PWCC, but if we're ever in a 2008 scenario, I'm just wondering, places with vaults, if people are placing their cards there.
So
I wouldn't want my cards, in some vault,
right,
regardless of any company it is.
Well, hang on. So I will say that the vault concept is actually a little bit bastardized. I beat up vaults. Okay. I talk about like, why am I buying this stuff if I can't see it? Look, the vault concept is very real in the high-end art world. Okay. So like that aspect does exist, that there's people who, despite owning 8 homes and having hundreds of thousands of square feet of real estate, they just want it stored somewhere. Okay. And like some insurance companies, they actually require some of this stuff to be stored off site. Okay. So like the vault concept is not unique to cards, and it does have a real place in the collectibles market. The issue was that like when I was, I wheel and deal with all the auction houses. I never like sending them a credit card. I never like wiring them money. I've got a closet full of stuff to sell. So all of a sudden I'm winning stuff and I'm like, hey, look, here's a list of stuff that I want to send your way. And they're like, okay, current value is 100,000. We're going to give you 20,000 of credit. I'm like, what? You used to give me, like, because it's me, you're used to give me 1-to-1 credit. Okay. And industry standard was 2-to-1. So if I bought something for 50,000, I would send you $100,000 worth of stuff and I was good. Okay. Now, despite the good terms I had, they cut me down to like 20%. So if I bought something for 50,000, I had to send them $200,000 worth of stuff. And I'm like, this is really odd. Like a couple of these auction houses don't have a ton of confidence in the market. The difference was PWCC. PWCC never really changed their stance of lending you 50 cents on the dollar of current value. Well, the problem with a lot of these high-end cards is that like current value is pretty hard to judge and put a real number on. And so that's where I think PWCC was uniquely exposed. And that's why I think we saw their sewer pipe break, right? Like they just had a bunch of sewage backing up their toilets and they had to get it out of their system. Whereas I do think that some of the other auction houses, I had seen the pushback from them months ago when I was trying to send them stuff to sell.
Okay. Yeah, those are really good points. Now I want to transition into maybe the Good Old Boy Network, and maybe earlier this year. This is where actually I started to get traction. It was actually because of you. I mean, you kept on,
Well, so look, for my mental health,
yeah,
like I couldn't keep attacking these people. I run a business. I've got 85 employees. It's a fast growing company. And I just I couldn't deal with the negativity of trying to be sort of the like bastion of light in this hobby. I like sports card radio, but they came out and they did some racist shit. They said some things that I just couldn't back. And so like I was like sharing a lot of their content. Then they did what they did. I've got mixed feelings. I don't know if they've really clarified or cleared up with what they said about Sasha T being a terrorist. Like that's just if they haven't properly apologized, I don't know how I feel about that, but they do put out a lot of good stuff. So I was kind of promoting them sort of as my auxiliary voice. And then I was like, this is a little dicey because of what they said about Sasha T. And then I came across your page and I was like, okay, this guy is using like real math and some real logic. You talk about the gold markets, you talk about other markets. And so you had corollaries that I felt very confident in. And so I was like, I don't know, your IG page has probably gone up 4x since I started promoting it. But it wasn't like I was promoting it because you and I you didn't know me. I just put it out there. I was like, look, this guy's got some interesting things to say. And I was tired of defending my voice, but you felt very willing to have an opinion that I agreed with. And you're also willing to kind of deal with some of the kerfluffle, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I don't have as many followers as you, but I see it now. I'm getting messages, comments, and it's been going on for a while. So the thing is that earlier this year you had Fanatics and the Zero Cool product. And this is when I think you started to like share my work like crazy. I'm like, whoa, someone's actually
nothing was getting paid for. Nothing was getting paid for. And you were the only person talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like all those shill bids, and then everyone was quiet. I'm like, what on earth is going on? And there were a few people out there talking about it. I think you promote these guys too, Sports Card Cartel and Coach Co.
The Canada guys are good guys. Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about it. There were a few other pages as well. South Park Cards 2 on Instagram.
He said something real off-putting, so I had to block him. That's the other thing is like some of our best voices end up saying like these horrifically dumb racist things. Anyway, it's a different point for a different day. But so to that point, what I learned was that like a lot of industries, there's a supply chain, and people felt nervous talking out about people who were bigger than them. Okay, because they didn't know if it would have a downstream impact on their business. So they're like, I'm a mom and pop shop. I depend on this distributor. This distributor sells to these breakers. If I talk about these breakers, then maybe the distributor will get mad. So I was like, this is kind of screwed up. Like the people who actually can see and are in the details, they can't talk because they might lose all their supply for their legitimate customers and their legitimate business. And that's when I was like, oh, this guy's saying a lot of the things that I wish people were saying.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for, blowing up my channel because like a lot of people were then like coming after me as soon as, you not prop me up, but like you just shared my videos, and then I saw YouTubers coming after me, like laughing at me.
You said nothing. You said nothing wrong. You're just like, look, these bids are very odd. Like these $8,000 Gary V cards, like the bidding just doesn't look like a normal $8,000 card. That's all you did.
Yeah.
And then you saw the vitriol because they want to pump up. Oh, well, if I'm cool with Josh Luber, maybe I'll get product. Or if I'm cool with Gary V, maybe I'll get product, or maybe he'll retweet me and then I'll get a bunch of money. And it's like, have some morals, but no one wanted to speak against those products, despite the hanky panky that we saw at them. It was like, well, Fanatics now controls all the cards. So if I shit on this product, like the Seablez video with his brother. I was like, this might be the greatest card I've ever seen. And Seablez is kind of like, he couldn't tell if his brother was being serious or not. But like Josh Luber had mailed all these influencers a free box of this shit. And like everybody was talking all flowery about it. And Seablez was like, he's like, I don't know if this is, you could tell he's like, I don't know if this is cool. I don't know if I want this gorilla card, and I was like, okay, it's all a sham. Like the fact that he is clearly conflicted, but his brother is like, this is the future. Josh Luber, Gary V, they're distributing cards the right way. And it's like, slow down. And then you literally picked up the beat. And I was like, okay, now we've got something.
Yeah. And then not only that, Gary Vee, two cards were, I think, Determined Dolphin and Gratitude the Gorilla, which seemed similar to characters of Karen Ritchie's book. So that's just, yeah, it's quite interesting. Gary Vee said that he does have, I think, the copyright to it. So
right. Well, copyright law is different by continent. So, you know, good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next topic I wanted to get into. You could say I got into some back and forth with card porn. You messaged me about them, and then I think you've had some issues with them as well.
So my issue with card porn is that he will pull the trigger on you without telling you. But then if you go after him, he gets all butthurt. So the issue was PWCC. I had maybe $10,000, not a ton, right? I had like $10,000 worth of cards that were live on eBay with them, and they were doing well. Okay. They had their kerfluffle with eBay. So my shit gets pulled down. Now, look, I know I signed the terms and conditions and whatever bullshit, that they had the right to do whatever they want with the cards. So my cards just enter the first ever PWCC standalone auction. Okay, fine. I signed a contract. I inadvertently agreed to that. But like, why not send me an email and say, hey, this was outside of our control. We're going to guarantee the price, at least where we took them off of eBay from. No communication. They just went live. And I'm like, wait a second. This auction is ending in 3 days, and it doesn't look like they've spent any money promoting it. So I went on. I was like, guys, I posted. I was like, I'm pretty upset at PWCC for like not really promoting this auction. Like, I've got a decent chunk of cards in it, and they didn't even ask me, hey, will you repost this? Or it was darko communication. So I blasted on my stories, and then card porn posts like, oh, PRyanCollection's bitching about the results from the first ever PWCC auction. And I'm like, this is not the shit I need to deal with on a Tuesday morning. Okay. I open up my phone and I've got 6,000 fucking notifications because people are shitting down my throat, being a bit, oh, PRyanCollection, big crybaby, big crybaby. If I was making a comment for a broader audience, like card porn's audience, I would have tailored it and tapered it a lot differently. But he just took my comment and made a post about it. And then all of a sudden, I'm dealing with hell. Okay. And I'm like, look, dude, like, come on. You know, like, this is not my full-time business. I'm just trying to be an advocate of the hobby. I thought it was bullshit. The PWCC went live with this auction without really advertising it. Okay. I should have that right without then you taking my content and reposting it and encouraging people to shit down my throat. I deserve that right. And he kind of hemmed and hawed or whatever. And it was just like, I think he eventually took it down because he realized at a point, like, I was expressing content to my 13,000 followers, not 70,000 followers. Okay. It's a very different thing. And then you just shouldn't take someone's content and post it without telling them, hey, I'm about to use your content. I was like, this is really bad form. And he did it to me one other time. And I was like, look, dude, like, you are who you are. I appreciate, and after this, I appreciate most of what he does. Okay. But then a couple things went a little sideways. This like hobby rips or breaks for women during the national promoted by card porn. I was like, look, this just smells bad. Like, can we put someone else's face with this? Like, why is an account called card porn promoting breaks for women in the hobby around the nationals? Like, and also the guy's like, he's kind of been on camera. He's kind of not been on. I was like, just like, why do this? Right? Like, this is not your lane. You're not like a hobby do-gooder. Like, so why are you stepping in as a hobby do-gooder now around these breaks for women for the national? So that really kind of just pissed me off. And then he just became a clout chaser with the Drake thing. And I guess Drake found his account because Drake's probably looking at porn on Instagram. And that's how he finds card porn. And it's like, so now card porn delivers Drake to Ken Golden. So now, it's like, it is what it is. Look, if you go back 18 months ago, card porn is a very valuable asset to the hobby. Okay. Whether he set me up for failure or shit down my throat or whatever, he was doing a lot of good. You're now saying, oh, well, now he's kind of muted a little bit. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they had 2 posts about me indirectly. And what drove me a bit crazy about this, people saying I'm talking too much about them. Maybe I am. But the thing is, with the cleaning cards thing, remember how you linked that up and then the story blew up about Kurt's Card Care and the Herbert card on IG?
It was the funniest thing ever because I was like, firstly, no one would have known. Like, how stupid are you assholes to promote this, and let the company share this? Like, it wasn't just the fact that it's like $1 million card. It's like, it shows how stupid the hobby is. That, like, I'm going to bring negative attention upon my own sale for the sake of clout. Like, that's how stupid the hobby is. So I was like, yeah, of course people need to see this.
Yeah, I'm sure you got pushback from it. I got a lot of pushback.
I really didn't because I basically, because I'm actually very mixed on the conservation method, right? Like, it's so common in art. Okay. And then comic books grade on a conservation scale. Okay. So firstly, art, fine. No one talks about it. Okay. Comic books grade against it. I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about it. But I will say, when you put a substance on a card that we don't know, like, there's a chance there's a chemical reaction 10 years down the road. That's the issue. That was really the issue. I want my cards to look as good as possible. But when you put a chemical on it, 10 years from now, what if that Justin Herbert is green? What if that spot is green in 10 years? We don't know. That was sort of the point I was trying to highlight.
Yeah. And, regarding card porn, they didn't mention me by name. They like taking people's work. And, they said to clean cards, not to clean cards. I'm thinking, wait, you promote all these guys. And this was, I did a video on it, and then Sports Card Radio did a video on it, like no mention of either of us. And then on top of it, now they're asking, I'm blocked, but, I could still see, their Twitter, and I have ways of checking them out. And they're asking, hey, is Kurt's Card Care good for the hobby or not? And I'm thinking, wait, why didn't you ask this, when I was talking about this? And then you have the audacity to come at me. Right. When I think that something fishy is going on why, they're not being as aggressive. I've laid out multiple reasons. But
oh yeah, like, look, if this PWCC auction, let's just say if the Drake thing never happened and card porn never became like a good old boy, as you like to say, if the Drake thing never happens, card porn's not a good old boy. Okay, we don't know what he owns, we don't know what he buys, we just know that he knows how to kind of stir controversy. So if the Drake Ken Golden thing doesn't happen, I think he is all over this PWCC auction like a fly on shit. Okay, but now that he's like in this status, and he's anonymous, and he's kind of anonymous. No, I'm with you. I don't like how he's moving, but I would love for that, like, real person to exist, like a real vocal watchdog. What happens is, as soon as someone gets big enough, they get brought into the inner circle. They get kind of ordained by the other good old boys, and their shit just becomes gold. And so, like, he's not a watchdog. He's just another good old boy. And, like, look, Jason Kuntz, OSHA Sports, he puts out tons of negative shit about the hobby, but we know that he's also big picture motivated by the success of the hobby. But, like, that's where the line kind of gets drawn. And, like, I do like Jason for what he does, because he does highlight some of the BS, and he highlights some of the ridiculousness of the modern sales, but he's still motivated by the card industry going up. So anybody who benefits from the card industry as a whole going up, you just got to look at him from like a different perspective. And I think card porn fell into that group. And so now it's not that he's invalid. It's just that he's way less relevant, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. The last thing I want to say about card porn, and I'm not going to make any accusations, but they run I think an Instagram page, according to what it says, where they post pictures of kids with cards. Not saying anything nefarious is going on. I'm careful in what I'm saying. I just think, I would not do that, creating a page like that. Maybe someone asked card porn to do it to get more kids in the hobby. But
so I was unfamiliar with card porn until I did my big Jeff Wilson video. And card porn is the person who promoted it. And he was like, hey, here's a guy who actually has real cards and has made real money in the hobby. And he's saying a lot of the things you've wanted to say. So he kind of put me on blast in a good way. But then he and I think it was Titty Subs. There were a couple there was card porn, there was Titty Subs, there were some of these dirty names battling each other in my comments. And I was like, this is just weird that these dirty word IG handles are fighting about my content on my page. It felt very off-putting. And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's just really bizarre.
Bizarre. It's very bizarre.
It's really bizarre. So, this year has been probably the craziest that I've seen. I mean,
what's your story of collecting? Yeah, I told you mine. What's yours?
Oh, so I've always been into sports. You could see the Cubs logo behind. So,
all right, so you're what? You're a 34-year-old guy that lives in the suburbs of Chicago?
Close to that age, but yeah, I'm in the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay.
And, as a kid.
First pack of cards you opened, what year, what product?
Well, it must have been in the 90s, late 90s, when the Sosa time was going on,
so Sosa McGuire brought you into the hobby.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then also I got cards handed down from my aunt because my cousin didn't want them. So it just interests me at that time. I thought I had a gem with Mark McGuire's rookie card, one of his rookie cards, but it actually wasn't his rookie card and it wasn't in good shape. So I pushed that aside for many years. And then I came back in 2018 when I was at an antique store, which actually had Funko Pops, which my wife likes. And then I found, a Chipper Jones rookie. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I need to get back into it. So then my story, of me getting back into the hobby happened. So
you PC Chipper Jones?
No, I didn't PC Chipper Jones, but I just
what do you PC?
I PC a lot of Chicago sports cards. So the other day I was at the Chicago Sports Spectacular, whatever it's called. I got a Kerry Wood picture. So I got a Patrick Kane autograph. So anything with Chicago, I like to buy. I got.
So you need to infuse a little bit more focus into your collection. I'm just telling you, because you're very broad. You need to unless you want to spend millions and millions of dollars. I mean, Chicago's not. I've got a great Wrigley Field seat. I've shown it off.
Okay.
Chicago's a great market to collect. Chicago might be the best market to collect. But I think you need to figure out so my buddy David Ratliff, Sign and Slab, he would do a McFarlane with a mini helmet and a rookie card. That was really cool. So you could do a Funko with a card and a signed photo. So I'm just trying to help you curate something that's displayable.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Because otherwise you can just buy endless amounts of fucking Chicago shit till you're broke. I mean, that's why, that's one of my things. What do you actually want? I spend so much time in my DMs. Do you actually like it? People should I buy this? I'm like, do you like it? If you don't like it, it's a little picture of a man. Okay. You're better off buying a scratch off. Right. So bring focus to your collection. Everyone needs to bring focus to their collection, right? I have 6 game used jerseys. Well, sorry, I've got 6 game used jerseys on display. Everything else, I'm probably going to sell. And if you want to get displayed in my case, you got to be bigger than one of the other 6. So that's, create some limits to what you're doing so that you have goals and then like a process. Because like the cards, we can store 1 million cards in a fucking garage, like, so, and then also if your collection becomes too big and too daunting, then you don't enjoy it. So that was sort of my point there. When did your wife get into Funko Pops, and what's the focus of her Funko Pop collection?
So she got into Funko Pops probably 2016, 2017
So
at her old job.
a little early, but not super early, but a little early.
Yeah, a little early. And then she just got into it, and she always wanted to start her business. And then what I told her is, hey, maybe start out with Funko Pops and then branch out down the road,
So what's her focus? Is it movies? Is it cartoons?
It's all over the maps.
Oh, okay.
But she likes Minions. Like she likes collecting
the Minions.
Funko
Okay,
Pop.
great.
Yeah.
Look, I do think that the Funko Pop market, I think so I've got a couple high end, like limited ones from like San Diego Comic Cons. It's kind of like, again, I'm a junkie, so I buy anything, but like Batman, San Diego Comic Con 2010, that's a piece that I really believe in. I do think there's a market there. I do like, what I like about Funkos, unlike cards, is I see random people displaying Funkos. Whereas like in my office with 85 people, I see more Funkos than I see baseball cards. Okay. So I'm just trying to give people like perspective of like, because the Funko is kind of cute. You can stack them. You can take them out of the box. You can put them on top of the box. Anyway, I'm diatribe. But anyway, my thing is that like, if you're going to collect, this is not about an investment. Like, put your money in gold. Put your money in T-bonds. Put your money in pork belly. Okay. I do think that a lot of these cards are good stores of value, but I also understand them at a very, very deep level that I'm comfortable considering them stores of value. You'll never hear me talk about a card as an investment. I might say it's a store of value that I'm comfortable with. Okay. I think Funkos are actually a pretty good store of value.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of people keep on telling me that it's Beanie Babies and all that, but to each their own.
So you know the fundamental difference with Beanie Babies? You couldn't stack and display a Beanie Baby. With a Funko, you can build a nice 3x3 or 4x4 wall of Funkos that you maybe have like $100 in, and it looks great. Like, that's usage. That's when I talk about an asset producing oil. The Funko actually produces oil because people are like, oh, that's cool. You've got all the Golden Girls. Or, hey, that's cool. You've got all the Ninja Turtles. Like, there's some social conversation happening there that we don't see happening with cards. So that's just one of my points.
Okay. Fair enough. All
right.
right.
So I got 6 more minutes before
Yep.
I got groceries on the front step. Anything else you want to? I mean, I totally derailed whatever you.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I know time is limited, but I wanted to ask you about pumps and dumps. Do you believe this goes on in this market? Because people are coming to me, no, it's not a pump and dump. They're disclosing it. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm open to what people have to say, but I've noticed some shady things over a decade ago in penny stocks. And I'm seeing some parallels to what I see, to be honest.
So I do think that there's a level of it, but I think that that's not the issue. The issue that we've seen happen that's hurt people is like having a false floor on something. So for example, like the LeBron Topps Chrome rookie, there were a bunch of people who were like, the base, not the refractor, the base is $100,000 card. Okay. And so we saw a lot of support for it above $20,000. Okay. What happens is there's a sort of false sense of support for a card where people are like, look, I've got 3 of them. I'll take a 4th, right? Like they're buying down their cost average. Well, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Lowering the basis.
Okay. Whereas in the stock market, because these are real financial, tools, like there's almost endless support at certain prices because we can see we can see short orders and we can see calls and puts. Well, because there's not calls and puts on these cards, what happens is when a card loses support, it gets so bad so quick. So we saw sort of this like false $20,000 number with the LeBron Chrome, but because they're not shorts and puts, there's nothing, we see nothing. The real support is at like $5,000. So people who are kind of like led by the Sasha T's, and maybe even myself, I talked about that card feeling comfortable at $20,000. Like people were like, oh, it's a $20,000 card, but there actually wasn't financial transactions at 20,000. And so because people hadn't put contracts in, that like when things got bad, they got like exponentially bad and they went to 5. So like for a stock to go from like, 20 to 5, there has to be a series of actual events. But with cards, there didn't need to be any events. It just had to be like this thesis of people walking away. And so like that's kind of promulgates my fear around people talking about the card market and the stock market, because like at least with the stock market, I can make long-term options and I can make calls and I can make puts. With cards, like the LeBron was like it was a very naked 20,000. And so you had all the support at 20, and then when the support went away, it went to 5. And I think that that's the bigger issue. Isn't the pumping and dumping, is people talking very flowery about a card and then never mentioning it again. Like Gary V. When was the last time Gary V talked about the 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron?
Yeah,
it was a $20,000 card the last time he talked about it. So that's the issue, is that he wasn't being forced to put his money where his mouth is, right? We couldn't see that he was like, oh yeah, I've got all these stock gaps. He's like, I'm willing to buy 1,000 of them at 17,500, So anyway, that's my issue. It's not just a pump and dump. It's more about like this concept of support for an entity and then, or a card, and then the support completely fucking disappears. And then the thing just crashes. Look, the Kobe Topps Chrome. I mean, the LeBron Topps Chrome. We see it over and over.
Yeah, the liquidity is definitely the problem. Low volume of cards that are being sold. Anyways, I wanted to leave you on this. A lot of people have compared you to Mike Ditka with his glasses, by the way. So,
go Bears! Got a Polish sausage lodged in here. Gonna try to get it out of here. Firstly, having a hobby, I'm going to close with this. Having a hobby is very important to your mental health. It gives you a way to decompress and kind of have like something to think about when times are tough and something to kind of build towards. When that hobby starts putting financial pressure on your real life, it's not a hobby. Okay. So I really hope that people kind of can keep that perspective of like, this is good. Like, I would never have met you without the hobby. I think you're a very smart guy. I like a lot of what you're doing. I like learning that the fact that you're here is partially driven by your wife's interest in Funkos. Like, to me, that's a great story. I've learned a lot of great stories from this hobby, but I've also heard some horror stories about people getting over leveraged and they start talking about these things the way they shouldn't be talking about them. So look, if the card doesn't speak to you, it's just a picture of a man. Okay, move on. Find something that does speak to you, whether it's golf or fishing or archery or watercolor, whatever it is. Have a hobby. Have something that takes your mind off your day-to-day. What happened was the hobby became like a full-time grind for a lot of people, and things got perverted, and it became a business, and it shouldn't have been a business. I mean, look, Jeff Wilson's tagline, profit from the hobby that we love. Look, that's never going to work. It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction, you know? So be good to one another, be good to yourself, you know? And guess what? There's so much value in dollar cards and the designs and the history of them that, like, yeah, I've got a bunch of badass PSA 10s and stuff, but the PSA 8s, my PSA 10 Jerry Rice, right? 86 Fleer. I've got some of my most rare PSA 10s. I've got a Montana, I got a Hulk Hogan, I got a Jerry Rice, super low pop PSA 10s. The PSA 8s are not that different fundamentally. I'm kind of the idiot. It just happens that, like, I'm comfortable with them. Okay? Be proud of your PSA 8s. I'm actually kind of embarrassed by those PSA 10s because it's like, well, why is it a PSA 10? Because some asshole did a bunch of Adderall one day in the PSA office and decided to give it a 10. Like, give me a break. Have pride in your collection. Have a collection. Have a thesis. Have a narrow focus. I'm telling you, even if it's narrow, it'll never stop growing. Okay? So I appreciate you having me on. I talked a lot. Probably not worth a lot to a lot of people. Maybe some people learn something. I don't know. I got my groceries on the step. I got to get them.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, and PRyanCollection on Instagram. Make sure to check them out.
My friend.
Thanks.